Hello, everyone, and welcome to, hello. How y'all doing today? I love to see all the lovely faces here. Welcome to the 34th Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Convocation at Augsburg University. I am honored to MC this important celebration today. For those who do not know me, my name is Curtis Love Jr. I am a senior majoring in marketing, and I am a Sankofa fellow senior. Now, before we get too far in our program, I'd like to introduce our Vice President for Equity and Inclusion, Joanne Reed.
Thank you, Curtis. As Curtis mentioned, my name is Joanne Reek. I'm the Vice President for Equity and Inclusion here at Augsburg University. And I want to echo what he was saying. It is indeed wonderful to be here together to celebrate the life and the legacy of Dr. King. And I just wanted to share quickly, in my time here at Augsburg, I've been able to be a witness to or a part of or leading 14 of the past 34 MLK Convocations. And one thing that I can tell you in these past 14 is that in many ways it always reminds me, this convocation, it always reminds me to not only reflect on the racial and social justice work that still needs to be done in this world, but it also serves as one way to mark Augsburg's continual work to realize Dr. King's dream within our own walls. One of the main reasons why I look forward to especially this convocation. But I don't want to spend too much time up here because today is not about me. It is about the amazing gathering of us all and about the messages and the performers that we have that are with us today. But before I leave you, however, I would be remiss if I did not take the opportunity to lift up an individual who has made this convocation possible today. Kezia Burrows is our brand new Pan-African Student Services Program Manager. And when I say brand new, she's only been here since July of last year. So that makes her pretty brand new. And along with designing, organizing, and leading this year's convocation, she has been an integral addition to the multicultural life here at Augsburg. And honestly, I can't wait to see what incredible things she will continue to bring to our university besides this fabulous convocation today. So it is my pleasure to now bring Kezia Burrows up to the stage.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon. Thank you everyone for being here today. It is an honor to welcome you all to MLK Convocation 2023. This convocation is special because I am using predominantly student performers who I have close relationships with. They are inspirational, talented, and most of all, humble. Since I started here at Augsburg, I realized that my students all possess talents that deserve to be recognized and showcased. After being in a pandemic, it was important for me to rebuild the community and look within Augsburg instead of outsourcing. I felt the best way to convey the message of We Rise was to have familiar faces conveying the message. I would like to introduce Tisha Mitchell, the student intern for Pan-African Student Services Program.
Hello, everyone. This year's theme for the MLK Convocation 2023 is We Rise, MLK and Our Voice Coming Alive. Based on his famous speech, I've Been to the Mountaintop, delivered on April 3rd, 1968. Martin Luther King was bold and courageous when delivering this speech. He gave solutions to the many problems we face during that time and still today. One of his impactful quotes from the speech is, "Let us rise up tonight with greater readiness and let us stand with greater determination." Thank you. I hope you all enjoy the convocation.
Thank you, Joanne, Kezia, and Tisha. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our university's campus pastor, Pastor Babette Chapman, who will lead our invocation for our convocation today.
Hey, family. It's exciting to be here with you all. And let us center ourselves. Let's take one moment of silence to center ourselves for how we invite and sit in the presence of the divine. We rise with a greater readiness. Let us stand with greater determination. Let us move on in the powerful days of challenge to make America what it ought to be. We, beloved, have an opportunity to make a better nation, campus, and community. Let us pray. Mothering God, parent, redeemer, and sustaining spirit, we invoke your presence and essence in this space. Cause it to be sacred and filled with you. We gather in the spirit of justice and equality, in the spirit of love, and in the power of our voices becoming one voice, connecting our stories to Earth's story, the story of the divine one we do not seek to silence, but to liberate and elevate. We pray, Holy One, we thank you for the fact that you have inspired humanity in all nations and all cultures. We call you by different names. Some call you Allah, some call you Elohim, some call you Jehovah, the Great Spirit, some call you Brahma, and some call you the unmoved mover. I call you Mothering Father God. But we know that these are all names for one and the same sovereign spirit. Grant that we will follow you and become so committed to your way and a commitment to justice, mercy, and inclusion for all peoples. Help us to see the invisible so that we can do the impossible. Install in us the audacity to believe that it is enough for people everywhere to have 3 meals a day, for bodies, education, and culture, for their minds and dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirits. That we strive to walk in love and acceptance of all. Bless and inspire us. Motivate us to participate in the continued work of justice, peace, and equality and unity. Bless us to be open to listen, to learn from, and to encourage each other as 21st century leaders, creatives and agents of change for all people. In the name and in the spirit of Jesus, Ashe and Amen. And now I would like to introduce our very own President Paul Primina.
Thank you, Pastor Babette. Good afternoon. It's a real privilege to welcome you, to add my welcome to this 34th annual Martin Luther King Jr. Convocation at Augsburg. It's always meaningful as we gather with our Augsburg community, but also with our neighbors and friends to lift up the life and legacy of Dr. King and to reflect on our abiding work for racial justice in our country, in our community. It's a work that requires humility from those of us with immense privilege. It is work that requires grace and forgiveness from all of us. It is work that, as Dr. King so powerfully reminded us, requires that we truly love each other as fellow members of a beloved community. I want to add my thanks to Kazia, to the students, faculty, and staff who have worked tirelessly to organize today's convocation, and a special thanks to our student performers and to Dr. Kwame-Ross for sharing their remarkable gifts with us today. This year's theme, We Rise, points to this moment when, coming out of the pandemic, dealing with economic and political turmoil, reckoning with our country's racist past and present, we come to this moment when our students stand up and demand to be heard, to be seen, to be loved for who they are and aspire to be. I want to share with you one way in which Augsburg is seeking to address its own racial history. For the past 2 years, a small group of faculty, staff, students, and alumni have worked with me on a project that has interrogated our institutional history and saga. Pastor Babette and Dr. Kwame-Ross have both played important roles in this group's work. As part of the project, we have looked into troubling incidents in Augsburg's history where we have not lived up to our highest values. Many of you will remember the 2020 MLK Convocation when we revisited the 1968 One Day in May teach-in at which black students felt Augsburg needed to respond in substantive ways to Dr. King's assassination and what it said about racial relations in our own community. The truth is, Augsburg did not immediately respond to the demands shared that day, and only 50 years later, in 2021, did we finally establish the critical race and ethnic studies program that had been demanded that day 50 years ago. I'm proud that we finally responded, but dismayed that it took so long. Recall again Dr. King's challenge: justice delayed is justice denied, and so it is. But one positive story that has come out of our group's work is the discovery that Miss Anita Gay Hawthorne, the first director of what is known now as the Pan-African Student Union and the founder of this annual MLK Convocation, had organized remarkable photo albums of the experiences of black students at Augsburg. These annual yearbooks, Ms. Hawthorne's way of ensuring that black students were seen when the official yearbook did not necessarily include many such photos, were found a few years back and were sent to the university archives. There, Stuart Van Cleve, our university archivist, and several students from PASU took all of the photos, digitized them, created keywords for each photo, and then posted them on the archive's website. As Stuart now reports, Augsburg has the largest collection of photos of the black collegiate experience in this country, the largest collection, a collection that will stand in perpetuity as Miss Hawthorne's legacy of ensuring that our black students are seen and heard and loved. We rise to say that this legacy lives on as we work tirelessly, even when we fail to live up to our highest aspirations. Even so, we work together to ensure that our students are heard, seen, and loved, and that this work is amplified in our graduates who go out into the world to live out Augsburg's mission to be informed citizens, thoughtful stewards, critical thinkers, and responsible leaders. It is good to be with you this afternoon for this celebration, and I now invite Kezia back to the stage for our land acknowledgement. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to read a land acknowledgement, and this is something that I did write myself. I also had my coworker who works in multicultural life, Gabby. She okayed it, gave me her stamp of approval. It was very important for me to have this particular land acknowledgement. We here at Augsburg University recognize the Dakota as sovereign nations and acknowledge that we are occupying their land. The Dakota are the original occupants of Minnesota Makoche and have lived for countless generations along the wooded shores of the region's lakes and rivers. We honor their continued lived experiences on this land and the wisdom the Dakota has from occupying this sacred land. We understand and condemn the injustices and genocide the Dakota have faced while trying to preserve their identities, practices, and beliefs. In an effort to affirm the history of the Dakota, we use this land acknowledgement to uplift and affirm the true history of the original occupants of this land. In accordance with Augsburg's vision, we acknowledge that the United States of America is rooted in a white supremacist foundation and the impact it had in retelling and the preservation of the history of the Dakota. We ask our guests today to reflect on their relationship with the land that we stand on and continue to advocate for the autonomy and self-determination of indigenous sovereign nations impacted by this unwarranted historical event. Today, we will hear an honor song performed by Spirit Boy, a local American Indian drum group composed of singers from the Ojibwe, Ho-Chunk, Dakota, and Lakota nations. They are a group of professionals who come together as singers, role models, and mentors to improve conditions for youth in the Twin Cities, American Indian community. The honor song recognizes students, staff, and faculty and invited guests with indigenous heritage.
I would now like to introduce Travion Dunlap. From Houston, Texas, Travion brings a southern soulful vibe to the Twin Cities music scene, along with playing drums and singing in a few local bands. He leads his own band, Travion Candy. Keep up with Travion's journey through his social media and website. Now please give it up for Travion.
Thank you. Use this one. Thanks, TJ. You go ahead. Please join me in singing, lift every voice and sing. Don't let my runs stop you from singing. Please stand. Thank you, Miss Babette. Faster, TJ, can I get a little more music? Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chestnut rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. While from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forgot thee. Shadowed beneath thy land, may we forever stand true to our God.
Wasn't that just beautiful? Oh. Okay, now put your hands together for Janelle Howard, Augsburg senior, who will be dancing to the song It's Working by William Murphy.
Favor. This is my season to reap what I have sown. This is my season for grace, for favor. Yeah. This is my season to reap what I have sown. Y'all listen at this. See, I haven't been perfect, but I sure been faithful. See, God's got a purpose, yes, and I know He's able. I've got a seed in the ground that He's blessing. No more stressing. I've got a seed in the ground. Now I'm knowing and it's showing. I see for grace, for favor. It only works when we all do it. This is my season to do what? To reap what I have sown. Come on, you say, this is my season for grace. For what else? For favor. This is my season to reap what I have sown. Listen, everything is working together for my good. Say it, church, everything is working. Don't feel good, but it's working for my good. Say it again, y'all. Everything is working together. For my good. Sing it again. Everything is working together for my good. I want you to say this tonight, real simple. Say, it's good. It's good. It's good. Say, it's working for my good. It's good. Say it's good. Say it's good. Say it's working. It's good. It's good, y'all. Say it's good. It's working for my. It's good. Real good. Say it's working for my good. This is my season for grace, for somebody to prophesy with your body language. Just say, what you say? God is leaning in my direction. Don't prophesy. I said He's leaning. In whose direction? In my direction. Come on, you waiting on me to say it. You gotta say it. Say it. He's leaning in my direction. Cause this is my season for grace, for favor. Yeah. This is my season. Come on, y'all. Will you raise your hand and say, I've got a seed in the ground. Come on, open your mouth, say, I've got a seed in the ground.
Hello again. Great job, Janelle. Okay, so I wouldn't be the MC if I didn't have a little piece for you guys myself. So I have a spoken word that I've been working on. It's called What is Freedom? What is freedom? What presents freedom to you? What presents freedom to me? Freedom is walking down the street with jewelry passed down for centuries that won't place me in the cemetery. They took the shackles off our bleeding feet, but abandoned us in the chaotic street, scared to death by a bedsheet. Left the nooses on our neck, waiting for a slip up to catch our last breath, but that's free. Being too blind to see that they aren't clapping for applause, but they're clapping to make us weak. Free is being able to walk down the aisles, not having to smile at the clerk because they think I'm stealing. Yeah, we all know that feeling. We believe they essentially let us be free, but they perform the same act for centuries. Yet we still yell, "What's next?" because we know it won't end. They say enable them to be free, but nothing is free, so they can be free, but we're going to make life misery. Let's start by placing them in poverty, and let's see who shines. But once they shine too bright, let's have their own kind tragically kill that light. Free is supporting our own business because they are waiting to shut us down. Let that payment be late. Run into the shallow bank, hoping they stay open late. If it's not, back to holding babies in that crate, running around looking for a place to stay, watching the same stories like, man, this must be fate. But I try not to relate, asking God to tolerate me for questioning my own faith because my life's been hard. So what is it to be free when you are already emotionally and spiritually scarred? I'm thinking my life is a fraud, and my identity has been taken, staring at my reflection in the mirror, not realizing what I'm facing. I ache to be free, just aching. I'm weary of waiting for the following act of misery to remind me that freedom is just an idea. Silly me. They say we are free, but they still control us, you see. They use us for their entertainment, from high school to the league. They teach you sports is the only way out of poverty. But they don't let us see how they only use us for your body and not your mentality. They want you to give it your all till you fall, then they discard you like you was nothing to them at all. And for the ones who make it, they don't give out handouts. Speak your mind one time and they make you stand out. Silence from the freedom of speech, money dependent on the same hands that grabbed you from the street and dangled you around like pawns on a chess piece. I feel sorry that we can't be free. To be free can like a dice game. Hit the 7 or 11, that's luck, but do one wrong and your freedom is given up. Free is being convicted for some legit reason, not because they seek a reason to make it legit. If that's what it requires for you to eliminate us, then maybe it's time to quit. We assert freedom because it's a possibility of hope, like a paradise with no vision. A paradise that is only given to the people who make the right decisions. But it should be a paradise for all those who have sacrificed and died for the true mission. I want to be free from misery and pain. I want to walk around without shame and not being told to stay in my lane. I just want to be free and recognize the feeling of freedom. Is it the feeling of rays from the sun when it's golden hour? Or is it the feeling of watching a blooming flower? Or is it listening to the sound that freedom rings? I'm excited to see when freedom finally comes. Thank you. Okay. Now it is time for us to hear from our keynote speaker, Dr. Terrance Kwame-Ross. Dr. Ross is an associate professor in the education department at Augsburg University. Dr. Ross was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. He has a degree in teaching, a master's degree in children and youth development, and a PhD. His year of work has been about how Black young males grow in society and the intersection between life and society in schools. Not only is he a professor, but he is a mentor and one of my dearest friends. Now, without further ado, here is Dr. Terrance Kwame-Ross.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I'll set up. Thank you. Thank you so much, Curtis. Curtis was in a program of mine at Como High School, so we do rise, right? We really do rise, okay? So without any further ado, I want to get situated, and I'm going to use the space, all right? I'm going to use the space. This becomes very, 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 very important. I want to first thank everyone for coming. This will be a talk, lecture, teaching sort of style type for the next 30, 35 minutes. What I hope we accomplish is renewed understanding of MLK, why we celebrate his life, and our own commitment to his vision or prophecy, or if you don't like prophecy, his predictions. Some things to get us started. Martin Luther King, he was Dr. Reverend Minister Martin Luther King Jr. So one of the things you cannot take out of it is the God element, okay? So we want to talk a little bit about the God element, which is very, very important. One, this is what I believe, and metaphysics proves this. There's no break between the visible and the invisible. The oxygen that you cannot see is here, even though you cannot see it. All things, all visible things flow from visible, all visible things flow from invisible sources. I want you to wrap your head around that. No man, no woman, no they created the earth. No man, no woman, no they created the stars. Once again, all visible things flow from invisible sources. The last thing, all things in nature have its foundation in the invisible. All right? So when we start to think about Martin Luther King, there was something about internal integrity. There was something that was stirring up in him. There was something that was in him so deep that is in us that cannot be killed. That's that life, right? That's that everlasting life that we'll get to. The last thing, there are forces at work that we don't see and we may not understand. In the black vernacular, we call that, or we ask the question, Babette, what's really going on? Right? What's really going on? So, without any further ado, what I would like to start with to get us started is to understand what's going on, what's really going on. And I tell people this story. 7.5 billion people on this earth, 325 million people in the United States, right? I was one of 50 who had the pleasure to be with the one and only Prince for 20 years, and he taught me a lot. So right now, Prince's voice is in the house. Hit it, TJ.
When will we be paid for the work we've done? When will we be paid for the work we've done? We fought in your wars in every land to keep this country free, y'all. Women, children, and men. But anytime we ask for pay or loan, that's when everything seems to turn out wrong. The police dogs. We've been beat up, called names, shot down and stoned. Every time we do right, somebody say we're wrong. Tell me, when will we be paid for the work we've done? When will we be paid for the work we've done? Listen, we work this country from shore to shore. Our women cooked all your food and washed all your clothes. be proud of my country, 'tis of thee. Will we ever sing out loud, sweet land of liberty? When will we be paid what we've done?
Replace rock cross time.
I wanna know, I wanna know, I wanna know, when will we be paid? We've given up our sweat, the blood of our tears, stumbled through this life for over 300 years.
We used to talk constantly about what Martin Luther King dreamed about. Can this America stop making corpses of black bodies? Can this America make good on their words, not mine, not Martin Luther King's, but America's words? We used to have those conversations. But that wasn't the only thing I want you to understand before we get into the lecture, because we're into the lecture. It's this guy called Frantz Fanon, before we get to that. Frantz Fanon talks about this idea of epidermalization inferiority. Okay, I want to explain that because the video I just showed you, right, is important. And then as we get into Martin Luther King, we're going to revisit Martin Luther King with Fanon in mind, right? And with Janelle in mind. And with Trevion in mind. And with Curtis in mind, all right? Because epidermalization inferiority means, right, it's the internalization process of inferiority being in a colonial society. And he hooked this other idea to it called racial epidermal internalization. All that to say that, right, if you're oppressed, your body starts to feel it. You start to go to classroom. Wondering why your shoulders are heavy. Wondering why your heart is heavy. Wondering why when this teacher asks you a question, your legs start to shake. Now, there's a reason for that. Right? It's because you have a voice. Right? And the voice has been suppressed. And what is voice? Simply put, from a scholarly and simple terms, voice is simply a perspective, a point of view, a reference point. And as my homeboy James Baldwin said, it's the view from here. Not the view from Paul President, not the view from Provost, not the view from Babette, but the view from here. And everyone in this room has a view. Martin Luther King had a view. He had a voice. But guess what? Was snatched to make everyone like me. Go back to Frantz Fanon idea, right? Oppression is lived in body and mind. Let's get into it. James Baldwin. James Baldwin's voice is in the house, right? He was African-American born literary writer, okay? An activist. And the most important thing here, this is important, right? This is why Martin Luther King got snapped out, right? This is, in somewhat, why all the killings of black males in terms of George Floyd, this idea, right, that the power of the white world is threatened whenever the black world refuses to accept his definition. Well, guess what? I can't accept any definition that start off with a diminishing ideal of who I am and who my people are. That's a no-go, okay? Now, this becomes important, I think, for all of us to understand. I was thinking about this the other day. Whose mind do I really trust? Who really got a grip, right, on reality? Right? So I think this theme, I think Martin Luther King, right? The video I just showed you, Prince, right? Prince helped me understand Dr. Terrance Kwame-Ross, right? Right? Tell you a quick story. I came late to one of his parties, and I had to figure out how to get in. Literally how to get in, right? Shaka Khan was there, Love Quest was there, Erykah Badu was there, everybody was there, and I was late. And I got that little dry throat. What in the world am I gonna do, right? I went to my car, got my sunglasses. There was two ways in, with everybody else and where the stars were. But I had to pull it off. I had to pull it off. How do I pull it off? How do I make my body, right? How do I make my body, my personality, right? Seems as though I belong. So my friend said, you can't pull this off. I say, no, hey, I'm getting in that party. There's no way I'm gonna be sitting out here with y'all. I'm getting in that party, right? So that's what I did. Went to the car. I walked right in. Didn't even speak to Prince. I went to my spot right in front of the stage, yeah, and waiting, right? So this idea that we've been duped, even in our bodies. What I'm saying, and particularly for people who are oppressed, LGBTQIA community, blacks, Latino, Latinx, right? Our voice is the way. However, it ain't pretty what happens when you start to defy other people's definition of what reality is, and I'll prove my point. Context, right? The characters. Dr. King, right? He was going up against the United States government. Understand that. That's deep. I haven't figured that one out yet. I hate politics, but I am political. But I'm like, damn, I gotta go, oh shit. I gotta pretend like them, oh man. People call me up all the time, come to the Capitol. No, I can't do that. Not yet, it's not for me right now. But I want you to give you a context. Martin Luther King was having conversations and redefining what reality may be, not just on an individual level, not just with his people, not just a conversation with the South or the North or whites, but with our United States government. That's deep, right? Other characters, black folks, he was having conversations with. White supremacists, he was having a conversation with, looking them right in their face. You see where James Baldwin's idea of power, and when you defy that, people will come after you. So, King in context, so there's characters, right? And then there's themes, right? It took me a long time to really, truly believe, and I'm still struggling with this idea of America and being an American. I am, to be honest. What they've done to my people and what they continue to do, I tell people I love and hate America both at the same time. But it's not the kind of hate in terms of white supremacy. It's a deep discontent to what America can be and is not. So it's a deep disappointment in all the lives and generations that are ruined year by year. And we'll see, right? We hold on to this MLK because sometimes when I don't have the dream, I listen to Martin Luther King, right? Because I truly believe, right? There's a God element to who he was, right? So when I don't believe anymore, right? I hold on to his coattail, the Reverend's coattail, right? To keep me, right? He was having a conversation with racism and materialism and militarism, right? He was having a conversation about the black experience. He was having a conversation about this idea of the U.S. Constitution, right? This is who he was. The context, right? To give you a little context, and I'm going to wrap it up. I'm not going to be here a long time, right? Because the voices have been already heard, and there's more to hear. The context, I just want to give you the deep what this man was up to, right? Legal, civil, political separation of whites and blacks. That means that we lived in a particular society at one time where there was a total separation. A total separation. And that total separation, right, go back to Franz Fanon, that should be a required, it's a hard book, but this idea of, right, epidermalization inferiority. If you are separated all the time with the worst kinds of neighborhoods, with the worst kinds of resources, even though you know inside you that the materialism don't make what's inside of you, right? But there's something that starts to happen to you. Even if you don't know it, those are forces, right? What I was saying, the invisible forces. You're motivated to come to school, but then all of a sudden, somebody says something in the class or a teacher look at you in a certain way, and this force grabs you. And you don't know why, but now you're depressed and you don't want to go to class, but yet you're interested in school, right? This is real stuff that happens, right? Bell Hooks calls it, she really believes that in terms of some of the things that we need to do in our institutions, right? She calls it exorcism, right? We need to get these spirits out, okay? So there were assassinations going on, right? I'm building up to something, this idea of voice and how we got to rise in spite of. So this is what this man was going through, right? Having conversations with the government, trying to convince his people that they were worth something, right? Going all over the country, trying to organize, and then people were getting killed all around him. Based on what? That voice, that perspective, that wanting to rise. Rampant white terrorism that was going on with KKK and others. And now we have the new Nazisms, all right? All right? Giving you the context of who this man was. Now, let's now start to wrap it up. Martin Luther King, right, he comes from a radical tradition. We try to make him to be this, I was bamboozled at one time. I really was. I was born in Chicago, Illinois, right, during the 80s and 90s. I'm 50 years old. I'm hip hop. Right? We invented hip hop. So I understood how to go and play with my white teachers and forget what they say and figure out how to use my language. But they couldn't do anything, right? Because then I would take their language, put a little Terrance Kwame-Ross salt on it, and there you go. Right? Seriously. And there you go. Right? This is what Martin Luther King said. So then I said, now, who is Martin Luther King reading? I need to read him. On March 19, 1968, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. proclaimed, we're going to let our children know that the only philosophers that lived were not Plato and Aristotle, but W.E.B. Du Bois and Alan Locke came through the universe. Whew. Now, this gets exciting now, because then I start, right? Young people, it's wonderful to read. It really is, right? Once you throw off and understand, right, that this is the body of knowledge. You have a body of knowledge. Only thing you're trying to do in school is connect what the school is trying to give you to your own body of knowledge, but never lose your body of knowledge, period. That's non-negotiable, all right? So I said, okay, let me go through the archives. In academia, we call that the canons, right? The big canons. I don't like that, but that's what they call it. Who's your canons, right? So I went to the canons. I had to put on white gloves because I was reading books that no one had touched for years. Check this out. Alan Locke, very interesting. Howard University professor, the dean of the Harlem Renaissance, right? He raised overall awareness of potential black equality. He said that no longer will blacks allow themselves to adjust or comply with unreasonable white requests. You hear that? The idea was based on self-confidence and political awareness, right? So this was one of the first ideas. That's why Martin Luther King said, read Alan Locke. What did my boy just say here? Curtis. If you listen to his poem, his spoken word, freedom is an idea. It's not a law. Equality is an idea. It's not a law. I tell people I'm not asking no white man, white woman, no black person ever again for my freedom. It doesn't make sense. If free people don't ask people for their freedom. Period. This was the ideas was going on there. You see that? They did it with equality. Now, developmentally, because I am a professor, right? They did equality. We need to do freedom. We rise when we act free. We rise when we mean freedom, right? So that was one of King's internal ideas, the invisible force behind this great man, that he realized on a deep level that equality was not really given. It was an idea. But within the body of politics, within the body of community, within the body of Jesus Christ, if you will, in terms of Martin Luther King, right? It can't be stopped. W.E.B. Du Bois, right? Sociologist, historian, Pan-Africanist, right? And brother, I got his quote wrong, right? That's what the brain does. Well, the quote is right, but the quote I wanted was in an 1868 address, right? And he was addressing Howard University fists, right? And he said, and he believed, right? We will accept equality or die. You see that? So these ideas, but you see, you got to understand W.E.B. Du Bois. He meant that. Accept equality or die, but that doesn't mean you go out there and you're shooting people. No. That means that we got work to do, people, right? And he did. The NAACP, the first big study, the Philadelphia study, in terms of the huge sociological undertaking that was in terms of researching black folks, written by black folks, right? So I want you to understand these two ideas one idea, right, around equality and freedom and liberation are ideas that live in bodies. And those bodies are physical bodies, but they're also bodies of politics, bodies of community. And then the second big idea, right, was this idea that you work. Right? That's unfortunate that in America we gotta work, right? Roll up our sleeves, right? But that's pretty powerful. And so, to sum it up, Martin Luther King was a radical revolutionary. Similar to Jesus Christ, I think, right? He was a radical truth teller. He was a radical truth seeker. He was a radical dreamer. He was a radical actor with radical behaviors. He had a radical life, right? And it was all in this idea, right, of voice. So now as we move to listen to a small piece in terms of his speech, in terms of the mountaintop, think about what I said in terms of Franz Fanon, this epidermalization of inferiority and racial epidermal schema, right? He defied that, right? Watch how he talks to the power. Watch how his body language, right? It's all there. That's the insight I want to give, right? There's this idea that freedom and liberation are ideas, and we have to live them. We have to walk them. We have to talk them. And yes, when you do that, there's some people who are going to want to take your life.
Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
The next day, for having a voice.
This is a CBS News special report.
Dan Rather reporting for CBS News from New York. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was shot to death by an assassin late today as he stood on a balcony in Memphis, Tennessee. Dr. King had planned to lead another civil rights march in Memphis next Monday. We got the latest on the story now from Russ Hodge, news director of WREC-TV.
So as I close, I want to say, we rise when we follow through on the revolution that was initiated by Martin Luther King. We rise when our hope lies in the ability to recapture the revolutionary spirit. We rise when we go out into a sometime hostile world declaring eternal opposition to poverty, racism, and militarism. We rise boldly challenging the status quo, unjust morals. We rise, every valley shall be exhausted. We rise, every mountain and hill made low. We rise, every crooked place made straight. We rise and during the rough patches and places. We rise. Forget about that one. We rise when we don't ask questions around what is safe. We rise when we don't go for expediency and ask questions that is politics. Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right? On some issue, it is necessary for the moral person to take positions that is neither safe, nor politics, nor popular, but he must and she must and they must do it because it's right. We say to our nation tonight, we say to our government, we even say to the FBI, we will not be harassed, we will not be intimidated, and we will be heard. Those are Martin Luther King's words. So, resolution. What do you do? What do we do? Here we are. I'll leave you with Martin Luther King. What he says, refuse to be butchered. That goes for all of us. Refuse to be divided as a person. We're whole human beings. Creative maladjustment, meaning that, right? Martin Luther King figured out how to look in the face of darkness, of evil, of hate, and figure it out how to, even so, be creative. And I think when you re-engage in ideas of power, right, he was assassinated, right? So, Martin Luther King's prophecy, we rise. We as a people will get to the promised land. So, people always go with, I have a dream. As I wrap up, I think the mountain speech is the most important because there, you got to think about the ideal of a mountain, right? And Martin Luther King, my family, Augsburg and community, Martin Luther King, right, he went to the mountain, right? He went to the mountaintop. He went to the mountaintop. I'm inviting us to the mountaintop, right? I'm inviting us to the mountaintop. He went to the mountain, right? Because he went to the mountain, what? To see the promised land, right? To see the promised land. So Augsburg, community, stand up. Stand up. Stand up. I want you to come to the promised land. I want you to come to the mountain so you can see what Martin Luther King saw. I want you to stand up and rise so you can see what Martin Luther King saw. He saw the promised land. So if this America, if this Augsburg University want to make Martin Luther King dreams come true, then yes, we will, my people. We will do what Martin Luther King did, and we wouldn't be afraid to go to the mountaintop, look out, and see that promised land. And one of the reasons I like Martin Luther King is the idea of a promised land. This idea of a promised land is grounded in both materialism, meaning equality in law for everyone. What are the three things we're still working on as America? Voting rights, equal opportunity in school, and equal protection under the law. And, right, because of the God element, That's the material. But the unseen force, right? That unseen force is that idea that no matter what, no matter if it's the whip, we rise. No matter if it's the bomb, we rise. No matter if it's the rope, we rise. No matter. We, as America and Augsburg, no matter what the issues are, if we keep the communications open, if we come to each other in true brotherhood, sisterhood, we will rise. Thank you.
The storm in your heart is raging. Listen to the echoes of martyrs pray, and listen. Oh, listen, brothers and sisters, listen. I swear we'll never find a way to where we're going. All alone, don't take your eyes off the road. Can you hear the bells ring loud? Speak now. Speak now. Can you hear the angels sing loud? Speak now, speak now. Listen to the message of hope and the whispers of ghosts. Listen. Oh, listen. While the children who grow in the seeds that we sow, they listen, we listen. Oh, listen. Brothers and sisters, listen. I swear we'll never find a way to where we're going. All alone, don't take your eyes off the road. Can you hear the bells ring loud? Yeah. Speak now. Speak now. Can you hear the angels cry out? Yeah. Speak now. Speak now. Don't you hold your tongue. Speak now. Speak now. Speak now. Whoa. Can you hear the angels? Speak now. Speak now. Oh, speak now. Don't you let your voice be snatched. Oh, use it while you can. Oh, speak now.
That was Travion performing Speak Now by Leslie Odom Jr. That song definitely set the atmosphere for our theme, We Rise. Next up, we have another dance piece performed by a student group. Give them a round of applause.
But it's something about this joint right here. This joint right here, it makes me wanna let it go. Can't let this thing go, don't get away from you. Feel free right now, go do what you wanna do. Can't let nobody take it away from you.
Lovely performance, lovely performance. Hello, everybody. My name is LaRay Vaughn Gibson, and I am a first year at Augsburg University. Some of you might already be able to identify me by my presence on Augsburg University's campus. However, for those who don't, I am an Act 6 scholar, a scholarship awarded to me thanks to my leadership capabilities, and I am also part of many different organizations on campus as well. For instance, I hold the first year representative position for A6, and I am the current PMWC Poetry and Meaningful Club president. Meaningful Writing Club, yeah. So that's what we're on. And today, I will be sharing with you all one of my more personal spoken word pieces inspired by Martin Luther King's I've Been to the Mountaintop speech, the one that we just kind of heard a glimpse from. It's titled, I've Seen Blackness, by Amel, which is me, my pen name. I hope you all enjoyed, and welcome to MLK Convocation. Let me adjust this microphone. Hello? Is it on? Can everybody hear me fine? Okay. All right. When I speak, my vocal cords utter for the we and not the I. I voice those of darkened shade and brown eyes. I sound of much texture and experience. So listen, we say this. When I was young, I was sung by the drum, by the tongue, that I'd be hit, that I'd be hung, that I would die to become. My ears bled, my soul wrung, but I was well. When I got older, I was told that I'd be much, much bigger than before. That when I marched, had broken toes, broken feet, broken bones, that I was destined, all for peace, everlasting, ever known. But I was well. As I got older, my shoulders dropped, my heart sank, and my life stopped. It was hard, had many thoughts. Were we not? I was well. I got much older, and I realized that hill was steep and hard to climb. It was cold, it was dark, and it changed me in my colored heart. My hands callous, my grip faltering, and I was slipping and I was terrified, but I climbed too high to see the floor, and so I climbed, and I climbed some more, and I slipped and I climbed, and I was well. When I died, I didn't fade. I didn't disappear. I didn't haze. I stayed to torch injustice, to preach for a day of peace and no rage, to piece myself together in these sickly weather days, to learn, to grow, to make space for my own. When I died, I was no longer well. I was good. They look me dumb when I say I was glad to die. They look me foolish, as if I was another victim easily pushed to the side. They look and minimize my efforts, as if my soul wasn't born out of the backs of billions, as if my mind wasn't carefully sharpened. When I held back a sneeze, they thought it was because I was sick. No. If I sneezed, they would be blown away. They'd be forced to climb that mountain if I said I chew. And let me tell it, I hope they're worthy, because it wasn't easy. Tell me, when we say one, could you fit in my shoes through the course of my life in the guise of my fight? Could you eat from the scraps that tortured you to obtain? Don't answer first. Firstly, know my name is but masses, and I am who we say, not one. Don't let that pass you. Like an echo of a lion in a forest or the cool breeze at your lungs on a cold day. Don't let it escape you like the essence of this blackness that is still seen as a threat, because I preach of no hope of liberation from this chaos. I simply enforce it. When I died, I knew that I was persistent, as I was still conscious in death. I knew that something was striking, and I knew it was as fast as age is to mankind and as flame is to ash. I believe that we were the bullet that struck the construct, that we were the going and that tragedy was the grain, that we can make change in the absence of our arms or argumentation or whatever folk prescribe us with. So just, you have never seen we. You have never seen we march, sounding of drums and explosions, curing the disdained world. We step and change the fabric. You have never seen we. Never seen the guiding feet that brung we to salvation or the community we evoked. You were too blinded by your rage and discontent and hatred and disgust for we, that when we climbed to that mountaintop, we were already back much stronger before you could hang we by the mile. It's no secret to we, and neither should your fear be without tongue of what we found. As I have seen blackness on that mountaintop, and it told we to fear no man. Welcome to MLK Convocation. Thank you.
Hello again. My name is Tisha again, and I invite you all to our new Black Circle series. It's a reflection of the MLK Convocation and our monthly dialogue for the Pan-African Student Services. It will be in the back discussing about the convocation and what you guys like about it, and it will be some refreshments as well as a conversation to express our victories, obstacles, and everyday experience for Black identified students. So we hope to see you guys there. We'll be in the back at the convocation. Thank you.